Okay, imagine this for a second. Your investment is valued at 100%. Everything looks totally fine. And then, just 30 days later, it's worth zero, nothing, a complete and total loss. Now, this isn't some made-up scenario. This is real, and it's happening right now deep inside our financial system.
And look, this isn't just about one bad investment gone south. No. What we're about to do here is pull back the curtain on what's being called the shadow default crisis. We're going to expose a trillion-dollar problem that Wall Street has been desperately trying to hide.
So, our story, it starts with one of these blow-ups. Think of it like a single warning flare, shot up in the dark, lighting up a danger that's way, way bigger than anyone's talking about. And it involves a company called Renovo Home Partners, and one of the biggest names in all of finance.
What is just mind-blowing here is the sheer speed of this collapse. In September, BlackRock, that BlackRock, was valuing its debt in this home renovation company at 100 cents on the dollar. They were expecting a full payback. Just a few weeks later, Renovo files for bankruptcy, and that valuation gets slashed to zero. A complete and total wipeout. And here's the kicker. It wasn't just BlackRock. You had financial giants like Apollo and Oaktree caught in the exact same mess.
Okay, so here's the thing you absolutely have to understand. The amount of money lost here isn't the real story. The real story is what these failures represent. They're like cockroaches. You know the saying, right? You see one scuttling out in the open, and you just know there are hundreds, maybe thousands more hiding just out of sight, in the walls. And these cockroaches are revealing some really deep cracks in a part of our economy that's been kept in the shadows.
So where are all these cockroaches hiding? Well, they're hiding in a place called the shadow banking system, or as the insiders call it, private credit. It's a place where lending happens completely outside the view of any regulators, and it has just exploded in size.
You really have to think of it as a tale of two different financial systems. On one side, you've got your traditional banks. They're regulated, they're transparent, they're insured. But then, you've got shadow banking. And folks, this is the Wild West. It's totally opaque, it's unregulated, and it's all built on private backroom deals you'll never, ever see. And let me be clear, there's no FDIC, no safety net to save you when things go sideways here.
Now, we are not talking about some niche, tiny corner of the market here. Look, the official number they'll give you is something like $1.7 trillion. But you talk to anyone who actually knows this space, and they'll tell you it's probably closer to $3 trillion. The crazy part? Nobody really knows for sure. And you know what? That's by design.
So you might be asking, how do they keep all these problems hidden? Well, there's this one key trick they use. It's called payment in kind, or PIK interest. So a company can't afford its interest payment. The lender says, hey, no problem, just add it to the final bill. But here's the magic trick, or the deception really. Even though the company is obviously in trouble, the loan can still be marked on the books as performing. It's a total accounting gimmick. It's how you pretend everything is just fine, even when the house is on fire.
This whole shadow system, this house of cards, has been held up by three core narratives. Or let's just call them what they are. Three big lies that Wall Street has been selling you. And believe me, once you see them, you can't unsee them.
All right, lie number one. It's all about safety. Investors were sold this idea that they were buying high-grade assets, the safest stuff you could find. A UBS fund that was loaded up with debt from a company called First Brands was sold exactly this way. So what happened to those investors? Up to 30% losses on what was supposed to be low-risk debt. I mean, stop and think about that. If the safest stuff is blowing up like this, what on earth does that tell you about all the riskier junk hiding underneath?
Okay, lie number two is a classic. Don't worry, the smartest guys in the room are doing their homework, they're doing rigorous due diligence. Yeah, right. Remember that First Brands company? It turns out it was a massive fraud. Jefferies was their investment bank for a decade. They were completely blindsided, lost a fortune, and who else was caught holding the bag? Surprise, surprise. BlackRock, Apollo, and Oaktree, the usual suspects.
And look, don't just take my word for it. The reports are coming out now, and they are openly questioning the standards for due diligence all across Wall Street. It's simple. When money was cheap and easy, nobody bothered to check. They just wanted to get deals done. Now that things are getting tight, people are finally looking under the hood, and they're finding out the engine's been stolen.
And this brings us to the biggest lie of them all. The one that came straight from the top, from the Fed and everybody else. That our economy is strong. That it's resilient. Well, that was the story that allowed all of this crazy risk-taking to happen. But the data, the actual data from the real world, it tells a completely different story.
Yeah, that ain't good. We're talking about subprime auto loan delinquencies, people with the worst credit defaulting on their car loans at the highest level in 30 years. Listen to that again. Not since 2008, since 1994. This screams stress on the average person, the absolute opposite of a strong and resilient economy.
Okay, so we've seen the individual cockroaches. We've seen the lies they were hiding behind. Now it's time to zoom out and look at the systemic data that shows you the true scale of this whole hidden crisis. And buckle up, because this is where it gets really, really concerning. Just take a look at this. This is data straight from Standard & Poor's. In 2024, for every one single conventional default, the ones they actually report in the news, there were 5 selective defaults. Those are the hidden ones, the extend and pretend deals we talked about. A 5-to-1 ratio. It means the vast, vast majority of financial distress is happening completely in the dark. So, what's the real number then? If they're hiding all of this, what's the truth? Well, a valuation firm called Lincoln International actually did the math. They calculated what they call a shadow default rate, and it's 6%. Now compare that to the official number they're telling you, which is just 2 to 3%. It means the real distress out there is double, maybe triple, what anyone is officially admitting.
And look, this isn't just one firm saying this. It's not some outlier. You've got S&P, you've got Lincoln International, you even have JP Morgan. They're all using different data, different methods, but they are all pointing to the exact same conclusion. The official numbers are a complete fantasy. The real default rate is somewhere between 5 and 6%, and you can bet it's heading north.
So, okay, the obvious question is this 2008 all over again? How does this stack up to the last great financial crisis? And there are some similarities. But honestly, it's the differences that should really scare you. See, back in 2008, the problem started on the outside, in the housing market, and it spread into the banking system. We could actually see the mortgage defaults ticking up. This time, the rot is starting from the inside, deep within this opaque world of private credit. The key players here are completely unregulated shadow banks. There is no clear playbook, no obvious bailout mechanism if this thing really starts to unravel. In so many ways, this is way more insidious. You can think of a credit collapse like this playing out in 3 distinct stages. Right now, we are firmly, without a doubt, in stage 1, these individual company failures, the Renavos, the first brands. Stage 2, that's when the fear goes viral. Investors panic, they rush for the exits, and you get a redemption cascade. Stage 3 is the endgame. That's when trust in the entire system just evaporates. We are not there, yet, but this is the path. And you don't have to look hard to see the contagion already starting. The dots are connecting. You have the Renavo write-down, then the first brand's fraud, which triggers redemptions, then UBS has to shut down a second fund, one that wasn't even involved, and all this is happening while the subprime auto market is imploding, with lenders like Tricolor going belly up. See? These aren't separate stories anymore. They are all part of the same story. And all of this, every single piece of this puzzle, it all boils down to one final, very simple question. Our entire financial system, from the most complicated Wall Street derivative all the way down to the money in your bank account, it's all built on one thing: trust. So what happens when that trust is gone? What happens when everyone wakes up and realizes the numbers they were given were fake and that the smartest guys in the room had no idea what they were holding?
All right, let's get right into it. There's something really bad brewing in the private credit markets. Now, this is a part of the financial world that most people never, ever see, but it's exactly where big pension funds and retirement accounts are putting their money. We're going to pull back the curtain and show you how a system that was supposedly built on trust is starting to eat itself from the inside out. It all kicks off with this little phrase right here: significant unexpected losses. Now, if you've been following along, you'll remember we talked about this last week with the whole UBS situation. The real story isn't just the loss itself, it's what these blow-ups signal. They're like cockroaches. You see one, you know for a fact there are a whole lot more hiding in the walls. And get this, we're not talking about some small, back-alley firm that got in over its head. No. The players caught holding the bag in this latest mess are the absolute titans of Wall Street, the ones who are supposed to be the smartest people in the room. Yep, you're reading that right. BlackRock, Apollo, Oaktree. These are the giants, the ones who supposedly have the best analysts and the most rigorous due diligence on the entire planet, and they were just caught holding debt that turned out to be completely and utterly worthless. So here's the part that is just unbelievable. Just a month ago, these huge firms were valuing their loans to a company called Renovo Home Partners 100 cents on the dollar. Full value. Perfect. Then Renovo just files for bankruptcy out of the blue. And the new value? Zero. A complete 100% loss. Gone. In the blink of an eye. That ain't good. And here's the thing you have to understand. This Renovo collapse, it isn't some freak accident. It's just the latest cockroach to scurry out from under the fridge. It's a sign of a much, much deeper infestation that's been growing in the dark for months now. Let's just connect the dots here. Back in September, we were already seeing reports warning about defaults picking up. Then bam, First Brands blows up. Then, remember what we talked about last week? UBS shuts down not one, but two funds, and one of them had zero exposure to First Brands. And now this, Renovo. This isn't random. It's a clear escalating pattern. This whole mess points to the central weakness of the entire private credit market. It's all built on trust and collateral because there's basically no public information. It's a shadow market operating in the dark. And with every single one of these blowups, that trust is just evaporating. The more of these 100-0 surprises that pop up, the more investors are going to start running for the exits. We are talking about the credit market's version of a run on the bank. Redemptions, the R word, and it's coming. So how on earth did we get here? How does something go from perfectly fine to totally worthless overnight? Well, to understand that, you have to look at the games being played in the shadows to hide just how much stress is really in the system. For a while now, lenders have been playing a game called extend and pretend. Instead of admitting that a company they loaned money to is in deep trouble, they just change the rules of the loan. They call it a selective default, and it's a neat little trick that lets them keep a failing loan on their books like it's a star performer. And one of their favorite ways to do this is something called payment in kind, or PIK. So a company can't afford its interest payments? No problem. Just tack on the interest you owe to the total loan amount. Hey, on paper, the loan looks perfectly fine, but in reality, the borrower is just sinking deeper and deeper into a hole it can never climb out of. Okay, so this market is super opaque, right? But some data is finally starting to leak out. And what it shows is that the official story you're hearing from Wall Street, it's a complete fairy tale. Buckle up. Here we go. S&P Global finds that these selective defaults, these pretend everything is fine defaults, are happening 5 times more often than actual conventional defaults. 5 to 1, let that sink in. Lincoln International says there's a shadow default rate of 6% because of all this game playing. That's nearly triple the official number. And JP Morgan, they found if you just count the loans that lenders themselves don't even expect to get paid back on, the rate is actually 5.4%. The conclusion here is unavoidable. The system is lying about how sick it really is. So on one hand, you have this grim, hidden reality festering in the credit markets. But what are the officials, the people supposedly in charge of the economy, telling you? Well, they're telling you a very, very different story. According to Fed Chair Jay Powell, we have a strong and resilient economy. He's been saying the labor market is solid, everything's great. This has been the official line for years. The only problem is, it's not true. Look at this chart. Just look at it. This is data from Fitch Ratings. It shows that delinquencies on subprime auto loans, that's loans to the most financially fragile people, just hit 6.65%. That is the highest level in 30 years, a 30-year high. This is the canary in the coal mine for the health of the consumer. You tell me, does that look like a strong and resilient economy to you? And it gets worse. According to TransUnion, a full 14.4% of all U.S. consumers are now officially classified as subprime borrowers. That's a level we haven't seen since 2019. The average person is cracking under the financial pressure, and the Fed is out here telling you everything is fine. They are wrong. So how does this all tie together? How do these individual cockroaches, these accounting tricks, and this bad data actually turn into a full-blown systemic crisis? It happens through something I call the contagion of mistrust. The path is actually terrifyingly simple. Step 1, an unexpected collapse happens, just like Renovo. Step 2, the investors in those specific funds demand their money back, redemptions. Step 3, everybody else starts asking questions. They start to wonder, wait a minute, if BlackRock can get it this wrong, who can I possibly trust? Step 4, Fear spreads like a virus and people just flee the whole market, doesn't matter if their fund was involved or not. And that's step 5, the pillars of trust and collateral that hold the entire thing up just crumble into dust. And that's what makes this so dangerous. See, this isn't some external shock like a pandemic or a war hitting the system. No, this is the system itself, rotting from within. The very foundations are being eaten away by bad incentives and outright lies. So what this all really boils down to is the slow motion decay of the only two things that actually matter in the entire credit market. And it leaves us with one final, deeply unsettling question. When all the trust is finally gone, and you suddenly discover that the collateral is actually worthless, what's left?